We'll probably have a bad connection here and there. I can't hear. Put purple chairs. Let's talk. Apparently a lot of women are mad at TD Jakes for saying some of the things he said, and I guess after 35 years of him pandering to women, they're kind of used to him pandering, because that was like how his ministry really took off in the beginning. Woman thou art loosed, right? And never, you notice there was never brother thou art loosed. I lost my one viewer. It was never brother thou art loosed. He never did anything like that. He didn't really minister to men too much, because there's more money to be made with ministering to women. I think something like 70% of donations to evangelical churches come from women. So, not surprisingly, not too many ministries really focused on men. And goodness, the number one killer of men under 45 is suicide. Bet you never heard that in the church. Number one cause of death for men under 45, men in the prime of their life. And we're not even talking about it. Anyhow, because he said we're raising women to be men. You're strong and independent. And what you're finding, go ahead, be strong and independent, but you're going to be alone. See, and it's not strength that we have an issue with. What we take issue with is y'all are masculine as hell. You act like dudes, and then you wonder why you can't attract a man to marry you. And some of you will say, I attract lots of men. And then you always have the one who says, how many men have slept with her and all that. It's like, that's not something to brag about. The reality is, for all of human history, a woman who's been with a lot of men is considered trash. That's just the reality of all of human history. Every society that's ever existed. Views female promiscuity as disgusting. Because it is. Male promiscuity, not so much, because it doesn't really do anything to us. Might be in her bloodstream for the next few years. You wonder why you're so confused. 25% of women in America are on some kind of psychiatric medication, and the rest of them are not taking their medicine. But anyway, that's bad. Do we realize how bad that is? 25% on some kind of medication for anxiety or depression, or other mental health issues. I'm not trying to shame anybody here, but that's an indicator that something is really wrong with our society and even the culture of the church, because it's not really any different in the church. The church used to have a much lower divorce rate than the rest of the world. And as they watered down the gospel, what happened? The church has about the same divorce rate as the world, maybe higher. And was Jakes right with what he said? Yeah, he was absolutely right. And I find myself agreeing with freaking TD Jakes. Oh goodness, man, he's got a lot of stuff that's just wildly heretical. But on this point, he's correct. We have been raising girls to be men. We teach them to be strong and independent. You don't need a man. You don't need a man? Children raised without a father are 5 times more likely to commit suicide. Those are the raw numbers. The teenagers who do not have their father present in the home are 5 times more likely to commit suicide. The vast majority of teen suicides are in fatherless homes. You think that's a coincidence? Kids raised without a father are also, I think, something like 21 times more likely to be shot by a police officer. About 24 times more likely to go to prison. 4 times more likely to grow up to be poor. And the numbers just keep going on. This is consistent. You may not like it, but this is the truth. That a man being in the home and being the leader in the home is God's order. That is the natural order. There are very few societies in human history that have had an order different from that, and you haven't heard about them because they either got wiped out or they're living in the Amazon forest and nobody cares about them. There's a matriarchal ethnic group of natives in the Amazon forest, where one woman will have several husbands, and well, they walk around buck naked and they live in the jungle. And the day will come when someone wants to conquer them, and they'll be conquered. And it won't be a contest, it won't be difficult. Anyone ever wants to conquer them, they're going to conquer them like that. Because that is what has always happened to matriarchal cultures. They always get conquered. That is inevitable. And one day I leave for work early, there's some kind of road work going on. Can't even tell what they're doing. Maybe they're trimming the trees. Sure, it would be nice. Anyhow. But a lot of women are angry at T.D. Jakes right now because he was right. Because you want to make a woman mad, all you got to do is be right. Because she ain't going to get that mad if she knows you're wrong. That is the unfortunate reality. He was right. That we are raising young women to walk in masculine energy. And you're being told you don't need a man. Look at the numbers that I gave you earlier. You can verify those numbers pretty easily. We can quantifiably say that yes, you do need a man. Back when I was married, I used to do these Facebook posts about stuff that I was doing and, get the hashtag things my wife doesn't have to do because she has a man. Life is a lot easier. And it's easier on both ends if things are done correctly. And the truth is, and this is another horrible reality, women need men, men don't actually need women. Unless we want a family, we don't need you. We don't. There's not really anything that you can do that we can't do for ourselves. And you want to say, well, what about children raised by single fathers? Children raised by single fathers have better outcomes in every area of life than children raised by single mothers. Yeah. You don't see all these problems of criminality and poverty and mental illness with children raised by single fathers. You just don't. The numbers are way better. So studies have been done on this, even by people trying to prove otherwise. People who are trying to make the assertion that, kids are just as bad off in a single parent household if the single parent's a man. Nope, they're better off. Hands down. And some of you say that's misogynistic. No, it's just reality. Fathers are a necessity. Men are a necessity. It's like Jordan Peterson said. Someone asked him, is it okay to be a man? He said, it's not okay. It's necessary. And what in the world will we do without men? You know, these trees right now on this road, I'm a little annoyed because this is delaying me from getting to the office. But the trees are being trimmed by men. I don't see any women standing out here in this heat. Occasionally you do, but this kind of work, 99% of the time, is going to be done by men. Because it's hard, it's sweaty, it's backbreaking, it's dangerous. Because let's face it, ladies, y'all want equality in high-paying jobs that aren't that hard to do. You know, I think it was Bill Burr made the joke that, you know, in the 1970s when air conditioning became common, that's when women suddenly wanted to go to work. Oh man. But anyway. And it's funny how a lot of you think that it's freedom to go and submit to a boss, but slavery to go home and submit to your husband. I'm not saying you can't have a career or whatever. Not saying that at all. I'm saying a lot of you, you strive for this unattainable independence that ends up emotionally crippling you. You have all this masculine energy, and then you'll say, well, I want a man who can handle me. If he's got to handle you, he ain't gonna want you. Point blank. Most men do not want to have to handle a woman. Animals are handled. Animals are handlers. What do you think they call the guy that goes to the dog show and does all the stuff with the dog? That's a handler. One of the things they check for when you're trying to adopt a dog who's already an adult is what they call handler focus. Is the dog focused on you? Yeah. Don't want a handler. What men are looking for is a woman who's attractive, youthful, fertile, friendly, cooperative, submissive. And if he's a high value man, he's going to get what he's after. He's not going to settle for less. As much as y'all say, we're not going to settle, go ahead. Go ahead with that. That's why you're 37 and single. I'm not trying to pick on you, but that's the ugly reality. You've been sold this bill of goods that all of you deserve a man who's 6 feet, 6 figures, 6 inches. Some of you also want a 6-pack, and only 1 in 25,000 men has a 6-pack. This guy just passed me on a double yellow line just to tailgate the guy 50 feet in front of me. Oh boy. Anyway. But if you don't count the 6-pack, the 666 man is like 0.74% of the male population. If you add the 6-pack, it comes out like 0.07 or less than that. It's so rare that you're not gonna find. There's like 30,000 of you for every man like that. If you want him to be 6 feet, 6 figures, 6-pack, and 6 inches. Yeah, that's like 1 in 30,000 men. So you're not going to get one. Take the one without the 6-pack. That'll at least improve your odds to like 1 in 1,300. And even then, I'd bet any amount of money you're not getting one. It's just the reality. But so you've been taught to walk in all this masculine energy, and you act like men, and so you are aggressive and combative and argumentative. That's not attractive. No man is looking for a combative battle axe of a woman. That's just the honest to God truth. So is Jake's right? Absolutely. We are raising women to be men. They're acting like men, they're behaving like men, they talk like men, they walk like men. And they'll say, well, I'm a dominant woman, I'm a boss, boss bitch, or whatever. Yeah, you're a boss bitch, but you want the man to pay for everything because you can't afford to. Or you're a boss, but you have like no control over your life. You might have a career, but you're 37 years old and single. Don't tell me you have control. I hate to tell you this, but at age 30, by age 30, 90% of the eggs gone. Your fertility is dwindling at that point. And any man, let's say a man like myself who's in his 40s, who is a reasonably high value prospect, isn't looking for if I were to ever get married again, I'll marry a woman half my age. Judge me if you want. But I'll be like, I know, 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 I know. Hey, I don't leave young thing alone, but ain't no sunshine when she's gone. Yeah. I'll get me some sweet young thing that's like 25 years old. Is going to be willing to put up with that. Look, you can get mad at me if you want, but that's reality. The high value man has options, and here's the thing: the high value man is only like 10% of the men. Yeah, it's funny how like the majority of women, like more than 50%, want a high value man. They want, a guy in the top 10% of men, and you're not going to get one. They're just not. If there's 1,300 of you for every man like that, you really think you're going to get one? One out of 1,300 of you will get a man like that. The rest of you will either have to settle for less or you're going to have to share. Now, the reality is that women end up sharing. That's just the truth. Oh, tell me I'm wrong about that. That's pretty conclusive. You look at, let's say, for example, the black community, less than 20% of the men have produced 80% of the children. That's just nasty. Basically, what that means is y'all are all boning the same men. And you know that you are. You know that Pookie got 4 baby mamas, and you still got pregnant by him. You knew Pookie was irresponsible. And that's particularly scary because a lot of these kids are going to grow up not knowing their brother and sister, and inevitably, because the number is so high, there has already been quite a bit of incest. Unintentional. Because, the same 5 guys are boning all the women in a neighborhood, and then 15 years later, the kids grow up and they're teenagers and they don't know their half brother, half sister. That's part of the reason why I think the number is like 20% of the inner city population has an IQ of 75 or lower. Yeah, that's one of the consequences of inbreeding, is lower IQs. Another consequence is a smaller amygdala, a gland in your brain that gives you your self-control. At 5% inbred, a population will have massive problems with violent crime. There's a big part of the problem. But anyway, you can't say that. And a lot of this is a byproduct of how we're raising girls. A lot of those girls grow up without their dad. But yeah, we are raising women to be men. We're teaching women to be men. And they're so masculine. And they don't even realize how unattractive that is. And I know some women like that. And, I try to be kind and everything, but, she's like, oh, I'm a bad bitch or whatever. And it's like, yeah, you get lots of sex, But getting lots of sex doesn't mean you're a high value woman. That doesn't make you valuable. It makes you less valuable. It means anybody can have you. Because a lot of women in this generation think the ability to get some D translates to being valuable or being desirable as a long-term partner. And the truth is, the more D you get, the less desirable you are as a long-term partner to any man who's worth anything. Let's just keep it real. My body count's around 200, and I don't want a woman with a high body count. Now, some of you say that's hypocritical. No, it's not. That doesn't have any effect on a man. A man could have 1,000 women, like King Solomon, and it doesn't mess him up. What messed up King Solomon was marrying foreign women. God did not say you can't have 1,000 women. He said you can't have any foreign women. That's what messed him up. Because he married some women that had different gods. So that was the issue. And just on a chemical level, it does not affect a man's ability to pair bond. Whereas a woman, the studies have been done on it, on average, after 12 partners, a woman is completely unable to pair bond. Even if she wants to. You could be in love with this guy and you will not be able to bond with him because your brain no longer produces that hormone. That is a biological reality. Call it misogyny if you will. It's biology. That's how it works. There's a reason why Scripture encourages women to remain virgins. There's a reason why Scripture promotes the idea of purity and chastity, especially for women. Not so much for men. We can argue that. I recall when David was running for his life and he asked to eat the food that belonged to the priests. The priest asked if the men were pure, and he said, well, they've been withheld from women for 3 days. Oh, these guys are running for their lives, and they've somehow managed to not get laid for 3 days, and that's enough to be considered pure enough as a man to eat the holy things. That's kind of comical, but anyhow. I mean, that was an emergency. They were hungry, et cetera, but it is interesting that the priest let it slide because, well, they haven't had sex in 3 days. And the truth is, for men, sex doesn't have that emotional attachment necessarily, and it doesn't have that hormonal implication. A man can have sex with 500 different women and still be able to get married and bond with the woman he marries. Now, am I saying he should, have that high body count? No. I'm not saying that he should do that. I'm not recommending that as a course of action. It's probably a bad idea because of soul ties and all that. But it's different on a chemical level. It's different on a neurological level. That's why I see all these women that are promiscuous. Their personality changes. To some extent, they start taking on the characteristics of the men they've been with. I've seen that happen. Some woman I hooked up with months later, I saw she was walking like me. I was like, what the hell? Like I left a little bit of Brother Sam in her, apparently. Yeah, the father's got to be present. That's a huge factor. It's part of the reason for all this female promiscuity is because they don't know what it is to be loved by a man because they didn't know their father wasn't in their life, or their father failed as father. A girl's father is the first man she's ever going to love, and that's the first man that's ever going to love her. And if you don't get that at least kind of right, they are messed up. And you can tell when a woman has had her father in her life. I can always tell. When I'm talking to women, I know the ones that their dad was in their life, because they tend to be more calm, they tend to be more rational, and they are respectful. They're typically respectful. If their father was like a decent dude, I'm not talking about the one, the abusive daddy who's an alcoholic and all that. They're usually kind of messed up, but they're still better off than the ones that had no dad most of the time. But you can tell when a woman's had a good father. They're so sweet and so respectful, and they're not weak, not by any means. They are not weak at all. Because that's another myth that's been foisted upon women in this generation, that traditional women are weak. Men are fetishizing traditional women. We're not fetishizing them. We want them. We want them because they are desirable, because they have quality. The traditional woman, it has a lot of value to her because she's going to be feminine, cooperative, submissive, and friendly. Who wants to live with somebody that everything's an argument? That's one of the things in my marriage. My wife could turn anything into an argument. And that's just exasperating and frustrating. Like, really? We gotta argue about this? You got a different opinion on everything? And there are times I just had to put my foot down. This is what we're gonna do. There's no more discussion. Which of course she didn't like, but sometimes it's just necessary. This thing has to get done. And we don't got time to argue about this for the next 3 days. A decision has to be made. As I like to say, and she didn't like to hear me say it, second guessing is the death of all decision-making ability. I don't believe in second guessing. I make a decision, stick with it, and either I was right or I was wrong. If I was wrong, I'm going to have to deal with the consequences. But if I was right, I was right. And I'm not saying husbands should be a tyrant. I certainly wasn't. She would like to act like I was. Goodness. Like, seriously, it's like the only room in this house that I determine the color of the walls is my studio. My little art studio, that was it. Everything else, it's like, pick whatever colors you want, just not pink. And she picked all the furniture. You know, on and on. Pretty much everything to do with the house. Do what you want. I don't really care as long as it's comfortable. And but anyhow, but the combative woman, everything becomes a struggle. Everything's a power struggle. And a lot of them will say, well, I want a man that's more dominant than I am. Okay, fair enough. If you want to, you're a boss bee, and you're tough and you're strong and you're independent, and you want a man that's more dominant than you because you're not going to submit to a chump. Okay, fair enough. Do you really think he's going to put up with that combative behavior? He's not putting up with it all. See, you're thinking he's just going to be more dominant than you, and you're going to go a few rounds, and then he'll take charge. No, he doesn't want to do that. He's not putting up with that at all. That if you're going to be behaving that way, he's just going to opt out and not just decide not to deal with you. Because life is hard enough. Men have enough to deal with. Why would we want to fight that we don't need to be in? That's why you see these girls that call themselves a boss bitch, they end up alone. Recently, and it went viral, and everybody made fun of it. I forget what city it was in. It might have been Atlanta. They put together a singles event, right? It was a singles meetup event, and only women showed up. Not one man showed up. And there's all these boss bees sitting there in the venue, just looking bored and frustrated. Some of them looked a little mad. And they had the nerve to go on this tirade, and women all over the internet were ranting about how this was the men's fault. That was not the men's fault. It's like no man showed up because nobody wants you. The harsh reality is you don't get to determine your value. Men do. Just like men don't get to determine their own value. The world does. And it's very different for men. You think you got it hard. A woman will be loved just for existing. You have intrinsic value. You have inherent value. The society, civilization values you simply because you're female. Me as a man, society doesn't give a damn about me unless I produce value. I have to be productive for anyone to care about me at all. That's just how it is. The society as a whole does not give a crap about Sam Medina unless Sam Medina has achieved something or accomplished something. You know, when I die, my obituary is going to say I was an author. It'll mention the books I wrote. It's going to talk about my achievements, my accomplishments, if any. That's part of the reason why men have such a higher suicide rate. 80% of suicides worldwide are men, because when a man does not feel useful, that's incredibly depressing for a man. A man has to feel useful. He has to feel like he's producing something of value. I'm talking about a normal man, because there's men out there that are lazy and whatever, but we find a man who's depressed usually because he doesn't feel like he's being useful. He doesn't feel like he's being utilized properly. But a man's pretty much only considered valuable if he's achieving or accomplishing something. You know, it's like that guy Andrew Tate said. You know, he went to visit this guy on his yacht. It was a $150 million yacht, beautiful yacht, and there were some women there. There were some really beautiful women, because you're gonna have, if you got a $150 million yacht, you got some beautiful women around. That's just how it is. And he said, this is the difference between men and women. For that man to be on that yacht, he needed $150 million. For that beautiful girl to be on that yacht, she needed a bikini. That's the difference between men and women. Another lie you've bought into is that you're oppressed. You can get on a $150 million yacht if you're just beautiful. I can't. I want to get on a $150 million yacht, I need $150 million. That's just reality. It is what it is. You know, oh, women are oppressed and men have it so easy. Really? I gotta go to work. There are women right now paying their rent with pictures of their butthole. Pardon the expression, but they're literally doing stuff like that. They can make an OnlyFans and do some weird crap on there, and guys will pay for pictures of their feet. There's actually a website called Feet Finder, apparently. Someone on TikTok was talking about that. This girl was making like 60 grand a year just selling pictures of her feet. You can sell pictures of your feet and make more money than I make, potentially. Yeah, tell me how oppressed you are. There are women selling their bath water. There's a guy that does this YouTube channel where he just walks up to people who have fancy cars. Now he flies out to visit people with car collections and all that. And he asks them what they do for a living. And there's a girl in a McLaren. It's $1 million car. And he asked her what she does for a living. She says, OnlyFans. And she said, and I sell my bath water. Yeah, there are some simps out there that will pay for a woman's bath water. That's freaking disgusting. It's also kind of funny. It's like, this is ridiculous. It's like, y'all are some losers. How much of a loser you gotta be to buy some woman's bath water? But there she is in her $1 million car. Ain't nobody buying my bath water. Oh man. So men do have it kind of hard. that we have to produce value in order for anybody to care about us. I lost another one. Goodness, I'm getting offended. But that's just the harsh reality that men have a lot tougher. We're 93% of workplace deaths. We are 90% of the victims of violent crime, 90% of homicide victims. We are 90% of the prison population. We are, I think, 95% of the casualties of war. 80% of all suicides. Most men live depressing lives. The only way a woman will think that she's oppressed here in the Western world is if she's comparing her life to the lives of the men at the very top. Top 1% is what they're comparing to. I remember there was a Jordan Peterson interview where this woman said, well, men control most of the wealth in the world. Because he said, okay, in what way is this a male-dominated society? She said, well, men control most of the wealth. And he said, well, you're comparing all of women to the top 1 or 2% of men, to the most hyper-successful men in the world. The truth is, most men are broke. Most men live really depressing lives. They work at jobs they hate. They don't have any money. They're not getting laid. And if they're married, they're still not getting laid. For the most part, they're lucky if they get sex once a month. And even then, their wife is not really into them. Do you know that 30% of married men who have children are raising kids that are not theirs because their wife cheated on them? 30% of kids that are in a marriage, that are in a household with a married couple, 30% of those kids are the husband's not the dad because the wife cheated. 50% of all abortions, or a little over 50%, are by married women, covering up infidelities. They go get an abortion because, well, the baby's not going to look like dad. The baby's a different race. So, and he's like, you're not going to be able to explain that. Dad's this, pale white redhead, and baby's going to be black. Yeah, we can't explain that away. And you think that doesn't happen? 50% of abortions are by married women. That's why they want this so bad, why they're so mad. You imagine that every year 350,000 abortions by married women. That's not for economic reasons, because there's all kinds of government help for women who are pregnant. So it's not that they can't afford a baby. That's virtually an impossibility. If that were true, there would be no welfare queens. It's infidelity. So that's another thing men have to contend with. That the average guy out there, if he does manage to get married, he's working a job he hates, his life is depressing, he gets almost no sex at all. 30% of the time, his kids are not even his kids because his wife has cheated on him repeatedly. The wife that won't give him any, well, she's getting her needs met elsewhere. And especially if you know that's going on, how depressing that is. And then men still don't file for divorce because, well, it's cheaper to keep her. The saying goes, because you're going to lose everything. You will lose everything. She's going to take half your stuff. Then there's going to be alimony, child support, and you're not going to get to see your kids. And child support is a scam. The Supreme Court actually ruled that child support was unconstitutional. But the states will do it anyway because the Supreme Court has no enforcement authority. $85% of the time, the divorce courts will award custody to the woman. Pretty much the only way the man gets custody is if the woman's in prison or on drugs. I've seen cases where women didn't lose custody of the rest of the kids when she set one of the kids on fire. It's like, what in the world does a woman have to do to lose custody? There was a judge here in Texas recently. The dad was told, and I think this is pretty close to a direct quote, I don't care how good a dad you are, all you're getting is every other weekend. He gets to see his kids 2 days out of the month, and that's if his ex-wife cooperates, which apparently she wasn't cooperating. Now, technically in Texas, it's a felony to deny visitation. But guess what? That's never enforced. The cops won't enforce it. They'll say, well, this is a civil matter. It's not. It's part of the Texas Criminal Code. But they don't enforce it. Unless a man is doing it, then it gets enforced. If a man somehow has custody and denies visitation to the mother, yeah, they're going to enforce that. And this is by design. This is to destroy the society from within. And unfortunately, women have bought into it. Have become part of that erosion of our society. Losing my signal with 3 towers, I can see them. I don't know why there's 3 cell phone towers all within like 200 feet of each other. And they're maybe 300 feet from me. So there's no way I should lose my signal. Anyhow, that's about the size of it. TD Jakes was right. And ladies, you don't gotta like it. But if you keep walking in masculine energy, if you keep refusing to be feminine, cooperative, submissive, and friendly, buy a dog and die alone. Or get a few cats. Because you sure ain't getting a man. Especially not now. So a lot of men have woken up to all this stuff. You know, what they call the red pill movement. Which I'm a part of. A lot of men have taken the red pill. That's a reference to the Matrix. You can take the blue pill and go back into the Matrix and forget everything. Or you take the red pill and you wake up. And a lot of men have taken that red pill and they've woken up. And, you know, everything's kind of stacked against us. A lot of men don't even want to get married anymore. Because the truth is, at least in this part of the world, marriage is extremely toxic for a man. You got a 60% chance it'll end in divorce, unless she went to college. If she's college educated, the divorce rate for college educated women for their first marriage, because there will be more, is 94%. Let me say that again. The divorce rate for college educated women is 94%. So if she went to college, you have a 94% chance of getting divorced. So we can quantifiably say this ain't on the men. It's not because he was a piece of garbage, he was abusive, he was bad. No. If you're getting divorced 94% of the time, honey, that's on you. Y'all gonna tell me that 94% of those husbands were bad. It's not the case. And so a man who knows that, he ain't get married. Hell no. Why would a man get married knowing, okay, so she's got a degree, that's a guarantee there's gonna be a 94% chance for divorce. 94% chance that you're gonna lose half of everything you've worked for. 94% chance you're not going to get to see your kids. She's going to use your kids to hurt you. You're going to be paying child support and alimony too. 94% chance that this woman is going to ruin your life. So knowing that, with those kind of numbers, if you're a woman who wants to get married, knowing that men are now leery of marriage because of this, you really think it's going to help for you to be walking in masculine energy and acting like a dude? Go ahead and do that if that's what you want. But I'll tell you right now, it really does not improve your odds. Anyhow, I got to get in this office, try to make some money. Y'all have a good day.